All right, so anyone listening is clearly interested in, the future of training and development. And I think we've got some fascinating material for this deep dive.
Mm.
EON Reality. They're making waves with this new AI tool that they're using to build XR training simulations.
Oh, yeah.
It's called the XR Simulator Selection and Generation Tool.
Yeah, gee.
And honestly, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It really does feel kind of futuristic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I think is impressive is how they're combining this like cutting edge tech with this very practical goal.
Yeah.
Just making training more effective and accessible.
Yeah, and let's break it down a little bit. First off, anyone who's not like totally up to speed, XR means extended reality.
Right.
Kind of encompasses, virtual reality and augmented reality.
Yeah.
This tool is using AI to figure out what somebody needs to learn and then recommends the best type of XR simulator to use.
And that's where things get really interesting, right?
Okay.
Because instead of just like a one-size-fits-all training program, you're getting this like custom tailored experience that's designed to match your specific learning goals and even your learning style.
Okay, so I'm seeing 4 main simulator types that they're talking about: procedure, decision, creative, and exploratory. Let's start with procedure. The example that they use is a mechanic learning engine repair.
Okay.
So in the simulator, it's like having a virtual expert mechanic right there by your side.
Exactly.
Like walking you through everything.
The AI is going to guide you through each step, provides feedback in real time, and it can even highlight specific parts to focus on. It's not just about like memorizing the steps, right? It's about understanding the why behind each action.
Okay, so then there's the decision simulator. And this one sounds intense. They use the example of an ER doctor.
Oh, wow.
With 2 critical patients.
Oh, jeez.
So it's all about making those tough calls under pressure.
Yeah, that's a skill you can't really teach from a textbook.
Yeah.
This simulator forces you to think critically, manage resources, and make decisions with consequences, just like in real life. It's almost like a flight simulator, but for your brain.
That's a great way to put it.
Oh.
Okay, so now onto the creative simulator. This one seems a bit more fun.
Yeah.
Their example is an interior designer using VR to play around with different designs.
I like that one. Think of it as like a digital sandbox for creative problem solving.
Okay.
And it's not just about aesthetics either.
Right.
Imagine engineers prototyping new products, architects visualizing buildings in 3D, or marketers brainstorming campaign ideas, all within this risk-free virtual space.
Yeah. And lastly, we have the exploratory simulator. Their go-to example here is a student exploring Mars.
Ooh, that's cool.
Talk about making learning immersive.
Right, and it's about more than just the visuals, right? Like,
Yeah.
Imagine experiencing historical events firsthand, touring ancient civilizations, or even like dissecting a human heart in 3D. It's really taking that, show don't tell principle to a whole new level.
Yeah. Totally. And what really stood out to me is that all of these simulators run on the EON XR platform. So that means businesses of all sizes could potentially use them without needing to build custom solutions from scratch.
That's a crucial point because EON Reality is clearly trying to make this technology accessible. And in their press release, Dan Lajerskar, the chairman, he says that this is about creating real-world impact, not just simulations.
That brings up an interesting question, though. How do you measure the effectiveness of this type of training? Like, how do you know it translates to actual real-world improvement?
That's a really good question, and it's one that researchers are actively exploring right now.
Okay, so we've gone through the different types of simulators, but let's step back for a second and consider the bigger picture. What does this technology mean for the future of learning and development?
I think that's where things get really exciting. We're potentially talking about like a paradigm shift in how we learn.
Okay.
Think about the possibilities for education, for professional development, even for personal growth.
Yeah, we're definitely going to need to explore those ideas in more detail. But before we dive into those deeper implications, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with more on the future of learning in XR.
So we've kind of established that, EON Reality is really pushing the boundaries with this new AI-powered tool.
Absolutely. And it's clear that they're not just, aiming for flashy tech demos or anything. They're focused on creating something that they can actually, make a difference in how people learn and work.
Yeah, for sure. It's about leveraging the power of XR to create those like more engaging, personalized, and ultimately more effective training experiences.
Yeah, and you mentioned a paradigm shift in learning. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, think about it. For centuries, we've kind of been stuck in this model of like passive learning, right? Reading textbooks, listening to lectures, taking tests.
Yeah.
But XR has the potential to turn learning into this like active experiential process.
Okay.
So instead of just like absorbing information, you're actually like applying it, making decisions, experiencing the consequences in a safe virtual environment.
So it's almost like bridging the gap between theory and practice.
Exactly.
Okay.
Imagine medical students performing virtual surgeries before they ever step into an operating room, or engineers testing their designs in a virtual wind tunnel before they even build a physical prototype. It's about giving people the opportunity to learn by doing, which is ultimately how we learn best.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this could be revolutionary, but let's get specific. What are some real-world applications of this technology beyond the examples we've already talked about?
Well, the possibilities are pretty much limitless.
Yeah.
In manufacturing, imagine training workers on complex assembly procedures without the risk of, damaging expensive equipment or causing any production delays.
Right.
In the military, think about simulating combat scenarios to prepare soldiers for the, psychological and emotional stresses of warfare.
Oh, yeah.
And in education, imagine students taking virtual field trips to ancient Rome or exploring the human body from the inside out.
It's really amazing to think about the potential impact on education.
Yeah.
Could this technology actually make learning more engaging and effective for students?
I believe it absolutely could.
Yeah.
Imagine a history lesson where students aren't just reading about the American Revolution,
Right.
but they're actually experiencing it firsthand through a VR simulation.
Oh, wow.
They could walk the streets of colonial Boston, participate in the Boston Tea Party, or even witness the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It would bring history to life in a way that textbooks simply can't.
It sounds like we could finally move away from that, sage on the stage model of teaching
Yeah.
and create like a more dynamic and interactive learning environment.
Precisely. And that's what's so exciting about XR. It has the potential to empower learners, to give them agency over their own education. They're not just passive recipients of information, they're active participants in the learning process.
Okay, so we've talked about the possibilities, but what about the potential challenges or drawbacks of implementing this technology on a larger scale?
Well, one obvious challenge is cost. VR and AR headsets can be expensive.
Yeah.
And not every school or organization has the budget to equip their classrooms or training facilities with this technology.
Right.
But as the technology continues to develop, we can expect to see the prices come down, making it more accessible to a wider range of users.
Okay, and what about the learning curve for using these tools? Will teachers and trainers need specialized technical skills to implement XR into their curriculum?
That's a legitimate concern, but I think the user interfaces for these tools will continue to become more intuitive and user-friendly.
Okay.
EON Reality, for example, is focusing on developing a platform that's easy for anyone to use, regardless of their technical expertise.
So it's not just about building the technology, but also about making it accessible and easy to use for the average person.
Exactly. And that's crucial if we want to see widespread adoption of XR in education and training. It needs to be more than just a novelty or a gimmick. It needs to be a practical and effective tool that can be integrated seamlessly into existing learning environments.
You've painted a very optimistic picture of the future of learning with XR. But are there any potential downsides or unintended consequences that we should be aware of?
Of course, with any new technology, it's important to consider the potential risks as well as the rewards.
Right.
One concern is that overuse of virtual environments could lead to a disconnect from the real world.
Yeah.
We need to be mindful of finding a healthy balance between virtual and physical experiences, ensuring that XR enhances rather than replaces real-world interaction.
That's a great point. We don't want to create a generation of students who are so immersed in virtual worlds that they struggle to connect with the physical world around them.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to approach XR with a sense of balance and moderation. It's a powerful tool, but like any tool, it can be misused. It's up to us to ensure that we use it responsibly and ethically to create a future where technology enhances our lives rather than detracting from them.
Well said. I think it's important to acknowledge that XR isn't a silver bullet that will magically solve all of our educational challenges.
Absolutely. It's not a replacement for good teaching quality content or a supportive learning environment, but it can be a powerful tool to augment and enhance those existing elements, creating more engaging, personalized, and ultimately more effective learning experiences.
I think it's safe to say that XR is still in its early stages of development,
Yeah.
and we're only just beginning to scratch the surface of its potential.
That's what makes it so exciting. We're on the cusp of a major technological shift that has the potential to transform how we learn, work, and interact with the world around us. And it's up to us to shape that future in a way that benefits all of humanity.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'd love to hear your final thoughts on what the future holds for XR and learning and development. What are you most excited about? And what are some of the key challenges we need to address to realize the full potential of this technology?
What excites me most is the potential of XR to democratize access to quality education and training. Imagine a world where anyone, regardless of their location or socioeconomic background, can access immersive learning experiences that rival the best classrooms and training facilities in the world. That's a future I'm truly passionate about.
I completely agree. And I think it's a future worth striving for.
Yeah.
But as you said, there are challenges we need to overcome to make that vision a reality. What are some of the key hurdles we need to address?
One major hurdle is the need for more research and development.
Okay.
We need to better understand how XR impacts learning how to design effective XR experiences and how to measure the impact of XR training on real-world performance.
Right.
Another challenge is the need for collaboration between educators, developers, and policymakers. We need to work together to create standards, guidelines, and best practices for using XR in education and training.
And of course, we need to address the issue of accessibility and affordability to ensure that this technology is available to everyone, not just a privileged few.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that XR doesn't exacerbate existing inequalities, but rather serves as a tool to level the playing field and create more equitable opportunities for all.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, from the specific capabilities of EON Reality's new AI-powered tool to the broader implications of XR for the future of learning and development.
It's been a fascinating conversation, and I hope our listeners have come away with a deeper understanding of this transformative technology and its potential to reshape the way we learn and grow.
And I hope they'll continue to explore and engage with this topic because the future of learning is something we're all shaping together.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And, when we talk about accessibility, it makes me think, even if this tech becomes more affordable, not everyone has equal access to things like high-speed internet.
Right.
Which is, kind of crucial for that smooth XR experience.
Yeah, that's true. And it really kind of ties into this larger conversation about equitable access to technology in general. If XR is really going to revolutionize education, we need to be mindful of bridging the digital divide, not widening it.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's the question of content. Like, having the platform is one thing, but creating these high-quality XR learning experiences is a whole other challenge.
Absolutely. We're going to need talented developers, educators, and subject matter experts all working together to create content that's not only engaging, but also pedagogically sound. It's not enough to just throw some 3D models and some fancy graphics together. These experiences really need to be carefully designed to facilitate actual learning.
Yeah, it makes me think about the role of the teacher in this new landscape. Are we headed toward a future where teachers are replaced by, virtual instructors?
I don't think so. In fact, I think the role of the teacher will become even more important in an XR-powered learning environment. There'll be facilitators, mentors, guides, helping students navigate these new technologies and make sense of what they're experiencing.
So it's not about replacing human interaction,
Yeah.
but rather enhancing it with technology.
Exactly. XR can provide personalized instruction, immersive experiences, and opportunities for hands-on learning. But it can't replicate the human connection that's so essential to education.
That actually brings up another question. How do we measure the effectiveness of XR training?
Yeah.
How do we know it's actually leading to better learning outcomes?
That is a crucial question, and one that researchers are still exploring.
Right.
Traditional assessment methods might not be adequate for evaluating learning in an XR environment, so we need to develop new ways to measure things like critical thinking, problem solving, and collaboration skills, all of which are essential for success in, the 21st century workplace.
It's a reminder that technology is only as good as the way we use it right.
Right.
We can have the most advanced XR tools in the world, but if we don't use them thoughtfully and intentionally, they won't reach their full potential.
I completely agree. We need to approach XR with a critical eye, constantly evaluating its effectiveness and making adjustments as needed. It's an ongoing process of experimentation, evaluation, and refinement.
Okay, so to wrap things up, what are some key takeaways for our listeners? What should they be thinking about as they consider the role of XR in their own fields?
First, I'd say don't be afraid to experiment and explore.
Okay.
There are already a lot of great XR resources available, and more are being developed all the time. So start by trying out some different applications and seeing what works for you.
And as you're exploring, keep in mind the importance of content quality, pedagogical soundness, and the role of human interaction in the learning process.
Exactly. Technology should enhance and support learning, not replace it. And remember, the future of XR is not predetermined. We all have a role to play in shaping how this technology evolves and how it's used to create a better future for education and training.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of XR training. We hope you found it informative and inspiring.
And we encourage you to keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with technology.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening, everybody.